What's up, YouTube? Sorry, you guys. So I just want to talk about this real quick. You see, often in this life, people often tell you that you need to go get a job or you need to go to school. And you see, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with working at 9 to 5 and getting a job. But you see, in this day and time, God is calling many of his people to be entrepreneurs. God is calling more people to open up their own businesses and have their own stuff. And you see, I'll tell you why. The reason why, guys, because with the world getting more wicked and many people being more anti-God and anti-Christ, you're going to have more people who are going to start to hate Christians. Many of you guys probably experience this on your job. You're probably a follower of Christ in your job, and you have people who just don't like you for no reason. You never done them nothing. You never said nothing to them. You never said nothing negative about them. You never gossiped about them, but they just don't like you. You know why? Because the light of Christ is in you. And you see, as this world gets more wicked, you got many people going to start to hate followers of Christ and going to hate people who are children of the Most High God. You have lost these jobs. You can't even talk about God in your job. You can't even talk about Jesus. You can't even talk about what the Bible says, or there's a possibility that you could get written up or fired. That's the world that we're heading into. That's the society that's what we're starting to become. You have so many people nowadays who can't stand the fact if you were a follower of Christ. I remember I saw a video of a guy, he walked into a mall. He was wearing like a Jesus shirt. I think this was in Minnesota. The security tried to kick him out the mall. And the man was not even doing nothing. The man was just walking in the mall, minding his own business, just going about his business. And the security tried to kick him out because he was wearing a Jesus t-shirt. You see, that's how society is starting to become. Now there's even people nowadays to where if you're preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ in the road, I've seen videos of people trying to attack street ministers. I've seen videos of people trying to spit on street ministers. I haven't seen a video of a guy who punched a street minister in the face who was ministering the gospel of Christ. You see, that's the world we're heading into. That's why many followers of Christ, we need to start having our own stuff. We need to have our own businesses, our own places, our own events. Because you see, many of these jobs, many of these managers on these jobs are demonic. Many of you guys probably have managers at your job who are demonic. You probably have people who don't even like you. You probably have people who are against you. That's what's very important when you being a follower of Christ. You know, you guys be very careful of who you work for. That's if you're going to work for a company, try to work for a company that won't hinder your relationship with God. Try to work for a company that won't try to restrict you from your beliefs. Because see, many of these companies, they're now trying to push certain stuff that God's against. I've even seen reports of companies trying to force employees to get chips. Now you tell me, what does an employee need to get a chip in their hand for? You have companies enforce employees to get chips. You have some companies that enforce their employees to follow ungodly lifestyles, to try and support ungodly lifestyles. You have some companies, they'll try and tell you that you have to support Gay Pride Month, or if you're not, you might get fired. You have some companies that try to get you to support Monday culture, this whoredom culture. And you see how society is going. That's the world that we're heading into. That's why God's calling many of these people to have jobs, to leave a lot of these jobs behind, and to open up their own businesses. You see, God gave you many of you guys good talents. Many of you guys have talents. I don't know what your talents is, but I know many of you guys are probably gifted in certain areas. Some of you guys could probably sing. Maybe God's calling you to become a singer, a full-time singer, and preach the gospel that way. Many of you guys can do construction. Hey, maybe you could open up your own construction company and start your own business and dedicate it onto God. Maybe you guys could sell unique clothing. I guess what, you could turn that clothing and use it to preach the gospel. I see many people with these unique Christian clothing on places like Amazon and Etsy and Shopify and eBay. And many of their designs look nice. You see, many of you guys are very skilled. Many of you guys have talents that God gave you. And he wants many of you guys to use those talents for his kingdom. He wants you to use those talents to glorify his kingdom. You don't have to be stuck working for a devil's kingdom. You don't have to be stuck working for a satanic manager or a satanic boss. Be smart, guys. You ain't got to do all that. You could use the talents that God gave you and become a successful business person. And you'll be surprised. Many of you people, you guys are probably living paycheck to paycheck. Many people who are followers of Christ are probably struggling to pay their rent, probably struggling to pay their mortgage, who are probably struggling to even keep up with paying their bills on time. Because many of these jobs nowadays, they're not even paying their employees right. You have some jobs I've seen where they're paying their employees like $40,000, $50,000 a year. I'm just like, what's wrong with these people? The economy is going up. Jobs are hard to get. Prices are going up. Everything. Food is going up. all these different many few people probably have bills that's going up. Society is going through an economic recession. Society is going through an economic crisis. You even have some banks that were shut down, that were on lockdown. I believe last year, or a couple of times during the year. So with the economy going up and stuff is getting more expensive, why would you not want to pay your employees good money? Why would you guys not want to reward them for work that they're doing? Paying this 40 and 50,000 a year. What can an employee do with that? That's nothing. That's poverty money for many people. Especially if we live in an expensive city like Los Angeles or Sacramento or New York or parts of Jersey or Washington D.C. You know that's 40 and 50,000. That's nothing. You be basically living on the streets at that point. So many of you guys, when you guys have, and guess what, as a follower of Christ, if you have your own business, you're unlimited. There's no cap to how much you're making. You're not stuck making $17 an hour like some jobs would pay you. You don't even know what your business can be the next big thing that hits the market, that helps bring more souls to Christ. That's what God's calling for His people to have businesses nowadays. That's why so few people, you're probably struggling to get a job. Many people, they probably struggling. They over here filling out these job applications. They over here doing all this and doing all that, and they're not getting through. You don't know. Maybe God's calling you to work for yourself. Maybe God's calling you to have your own business. It's so sad in this life. You see so many people. They they go to school. They do what society tells them. They go to school. Ain't nothing wrong going to school, because even I went to school. But they go to school, they graduate, and they work these jobs for 30, 40, and 50 years. And many people don't even like their jobs. Many people don't even like the places that they work at. So you got to work to let me get this straight. You got to work at a place you don't like for 30, 40, and 50 years. And then now all of a sudden when you're 60, you got to retire. And then by the time you retire, you're like 60 or 70. You basically spent almost your whole life at that job. So now you don't even really have much time left, because the average lifespan in America is like 67. Of course, you could live longer, of course, because it's up to God how long you live. But you know what I mean. Basically, when you retire from a job, you ain't no telling how much longer you have left. Even if God spares your life to see 100, I mean, still, you worked that job for 40 and 50 years. That means you spent more time at that job than you even spent more time probably with God. Many people, their jobs often take away their time with God. Many few people, you guys probably have jobs where you can't work. You're not even working 8 hours. Sometimes your job requires you to stay an extra hour, extra 2 hours, extra 3 hours. Some people are even mandated to do overtime, and that's not right. What time do you have with God? And you see, many of these companies, you can't even tell them all that, because many of these companies are godless. They don't even care about God. You tell them some of this stuff, they don't even care about none of that. That's why God's calling many of His people to be entrepreneurs. That's why God blessed many of you guys with many talents, because He wants you to use those talents to glorify His kingdom. God gave you those talents for a reason. He gave you that good mindset for a reason. Many of you guys are good business people. Many of you guys know how to manage money. See, the sad thing is, many people, they'll take their money and they'll waste their nonsense like Jordans and Nikes and Gucci and Louis Vuitton, stuff that has no meaningful use, stuff that just bring materialistic, that's just materialistic. It don't add no real value to your life. Instead of you spending that $500 on a Gucci belt, you could have took that and put it into your own business. You could have took that and invested in yourself. You see, many people should have more faith in themselves, because guess what? Many few people, your business can end up being the next big thing in the market. You don't know what God could do with your business. You see, just like how you could trust a doctor when he gives you a medication to take, just like when a doctor gives you a medication to eat when you're not feeling good, you don't know what's in that medication. That thing could possibly kill you. But guess what? Many few people, you have faith in the doctor and when he giving it to you, just because he got the title doctor. So why not have faith in God if he calling you to have your own business? Remember, God knows everything that's best. If God's calling you to do something, He knows that's for your greater good, and it's something that could benefit His kingdom. So many of you guys, we should not have to. We should not be living paycheck to paycheck. We should not be struggling. We should not have to compromise our walk with God. That's not how this was. You see, as society goes on, you're going to see many of this happening. You're going to see many followers of Christ to where they're going to be stuck in positions, or it's going to be like they have to either make a choice between, either job or God. And you shouldn't have to make that choice, because God always comes first. Your job, whatever, should be second place and all that. God comes first in your life. You should have time for God. If you have a job that hinders your walk with God, that's not really a job that God would want you to do, because He would want you to work for His kingdom. He'd want you to have more time with Him than with that job. That's why God's calling many of you guys to open up your own businesses. That's why God's creating and calling more people to be kingdom kingdompreneurs. That's what I'm going to say. Kingdompreneurs, kingdom entrepreneurs. I'm going to say kingdompreneurs. Entrepreneurs for a kingdom of heaven. I'm talking about for a kingdom of heaven. I'm not talking about worldly entrepreneurs. I'm talking about entrepreneurs for a kingdom of heaven who are going to glorify God and not be restricted or have to compromise their walk with God, who are free. You see, we should not have to compromise our walk with God because we serve the Most High God. We don't serve man. It's sad that many worldly people are living better than some followers of Christ. It's sad that you have worldly people who control all these businesses and all these organizations, and they're the CEO and they own the whole place. While you have followers of Christ who work in these organizations, they have to be subject to worldly people's orders. It should not be like that. The Bible makes it clear that the riches of the wicked are stored up for the righteous. You know, we should be in control of everything. As followers of Christ, we should have everything. Our own businesses, our own sports events, our own places or our own events. We should be in charge of everything. We should not be stuck at the bottom. We deserve the best as followers of Christ. We should not have to compromise our walk with God. Look at Jesus. He never allowed no job to compromise his walk with God. When Jesus got his purpose when he was 30 years old, he was a carpenter. He quit his job to work for a king of heaven because working for a king of heaven is a full-time job. That's why you see many pastors, they don't work many 9-to-5 jobs full-time. They either work part-time or they got their own businesses or they work in an online job or they're hybrid. But it's very rare that you see many people in ministries, like especially pastors, who will work full-time job because they know it could hinder their walk with God. And you see, Jesus, he never allowed this. When Jesus was walking the earth, he was a carpenter, but guess what? When he got in his purpose, at 30 years old, he quit his job as a carpenter to work for the King of Heaven, to work for God the Father, to proclaim the gospel of the King of Heaven. He quit his job. He didn't let the evil system of this world control him. And as followers of Christ, we should be looking at Christ's example because he's the best example to look at. When you evaluate Jesus' life, he made the best decision that any human being that no human being has ever come to. He made the best decision that any person has ever done to ever walk this planet. He was the smartest man to ever walk this planet. He never let the evil system of this world control him. He picked the right people to be his friends, the 12 disciples. He picked the right people. He knew how to deliver people. He proclaimed the gospel of Jesus. He proclaimed the gospel of King of Heaven. He never sold out to the evil system of this world. He never compromised his relationship with God the Father. You know, Jesus was a smart man. That's how many people need to take examples of what he did in this life because he was very smart with the decision that he made. So, once again, as followers of Christ, we should be looking to have our own stuff. Many of you guys have great talents that God blessed you with. You guys could use those talents. You want to be stuck slave at some job for 30, 40, 50, and 60 years. God gave you those talents for a reason. It's not to just be stuck. It's not for those talents to be hidden at the bottom. It's not for you to just be sitting down at a dead-end job, many few people, while your talents remain hidden. No. Listen, you have worldly people who are willing to take risks. You have worldly people who are willing to have faith. You have all these satanic rappers making all these demonic music talk about shooting and robbing people, and yet many of them are owning their own record labels. Many of them are becoming millionaires and working for themselves. They don't have to worry about no organization firing them, because many of them, they got their own record labels. Many of them are millionaires, so they ain't got to answer to nobody. They could do what they want. So why not, as followers of Christ, we should have our own businesses to where we don't have to compromise or walk with God. We ain't gotta be worried about, oh, if I put up this certain post on social media, I might get fired. Oh, if I say this certain Bible verse, I might be fired. No, it should not be like that. Oh, if I talk about Jesus and I say what the Word of God says, oh, my boss might write me up or fire me. No. As followers of Christ, we deserve the best. We should have the best. We should not be restricted. We should be fully free in our walk with God. And you see, in this day and time, as followers of Christ, we're going to have to get what we want. We're going to have to get what God's calling us to do. Because see, the evil system of this world is trying to limit followers of Christ. They trying to shut us up. They trying to shut down the Bible. And you see, we're not going to allow that to happen. If you're a follower of Christ, don't allow it to happen. God created you with those gifts and talents for a reason. Use it to glorify his kingdom. Because you never know who your business can reach. And you never know how many souls your business can save. Have a blessed day, guys.